120 seconds. 110 seconds. 100 seconds. 90 seconds. 80 seconds. 70 seconds. 60 seconds. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
My friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. This morning talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning, talk champion in Studio 1A, none other than the one and only Jonathan Small. Good morning, Jonathan. How you doing?
Doing fine, Stan. It's a pleasure to be back here again.
It's always a pleasure to have you back.
Oh, yes. Definitely look forward to it every particular week. Get the week off to a nice start.
Had a good weekend?
Weekend was pretty okay. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary, but it was pretty nice. You know, obviously the weather was a little bit better this weekend than last weekend. Yeah, I believe so.
I think it was.
Really didn't get a chance to watch any of the NBA Finals, but the Game 4 is coming on tonight, and it works out towards my schedule. But it's been an interesting series, though.
You're a big basketball fan, right?
College, but the playoff run, I get more into it for the NBA. I'm not as big as fan as I used to be, but certainly when you get a championship series, I get more interested into it on that level. But certainly not like I used to be. The NBA used to be my favorite sport. Now it's the NFL.
NFL.
I don't know your order. How you got the NFL actually is first. College football or college basketball is kind of like a tie, if you can classify something as a tie. And baseball and the NBA is kind of like a tie. That's kind of strange, though. I don't have it.
Now, you like baseball?
I love it. Oh, yeah.
I've never heard
like
you talk about baseball.
You didn't even talk about
we never talk. We've never talked
We
about
don't,
baseball.
to be honest. I think we talked about it maybe a little bit with the Red Sox towards a couple years ago when they was trying to get into the pennant, but not. I haven't really got in depth.
I'm shocked to hear that you like baseball. I had no idea that you like baseball.
Red Sox fan for a long time, so I like baseball. Don't love it, but I like it.
Best Red Sox manager?
That's a hard question. And Ralph Houk, no, he wasn't that great though. I can't think of a best Red Sox manager. I mean, Joe Moore. There was a manager back in the '80s, Morgan, I believe his name was. I'm trying to remember his first name, but the managers. I mean, we've had some good managers, but you mean the best out of all of the managers from the history of a base? That's kind of. I got to think about that a little bit. I can't give you.
But
one.
you know them though.
I know the most recent ones, yes, but going back from Carl Yastrzemski, Ted Williams, before my time.
See, you passed the test, Jonathan.
Okay.
You know what?
But you don't.
I don't know any of the managers. I just know that the manager is important.
It is important. Alex Cora, the current manager. Little controversy with him a few years ago when we won the World Series, and I don't know how that's been clarified, but he's labeled as a pretty good manager. Manager is kind of like a team. You got to get the best out of your team, and some people classify a player manager is really important. How you can fit with the players in today's game, but. Your sports, I don't know. Your sports, you're not a big sports fan, Stan, but you do like sports enough to watch some of them.
Yeah, of course, I like to watch football. I like to see the execution. But hey, if the game, I like Sundays during the winter we watch football because my wife's a big football fan.
All right.
And so, but if it's not on, I'm not like depressed or anything.
But do your father like basketball or just football? I'm trying to remember his sport.
My dad he likes sports. Phillies, the Phillies, the Eagles. Yeah.
Sixers.
Okay. Yeah.
But
he played softball for many years, so he likes baseball, softball stuff. Yeah.
And you don't really have a particular team, though. You don't stand out for one. You don't root for one particular team.
No, I'm not much of a sports guy. You know, I like video. Video is my sport. Television production is my sport.
Well, that's true. I love it too. Television production. I definitely can't go wrong with that.
That's my sport. If I'm out, if I have nothing to do, to me, I should be taking a camera out and interviewing people and covering an event somewhere in Hartford. That's my favorite pastime is television production.
Okay, so that's your sport then, actually.
I guess that would be my sport.
Or hobby /sport.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can classify it as a sport, but
yeah, I don't think it's a real sport, but
Well, people say fishing is like a sport. I think they do show fishing.
They do have competition fishing. I mean, like the Bass Open, the 14th annual Bass Open.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be having a big show in a few weeks about 1983. That's all I'm going to say. Not the Thriller album, but very close to that.
Oh, okay.
Did that. Very, very big show.
All right. Well, let's jump into it. I had a friend of mine call up. He said that we were bantering for 10 minutes.
Oh, that's true.
The song is only 4 minutes long, so I mean, how was it 10 minutes?
Yeah. Get to the show.
Right. There's other stuff on.
Right.
No, I like the banter.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but nonetheless, it's Monday, my friends, and guess what? Every Monday we have special guests join us from somewhere around the world, and of course today is no different. Jonathan has found another fabulous guest, and so you have the floor, Jonathan.
Okay, this morning on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show, we have an exceptional person who is making a transition from the corporate world into the business ownership world, but sort of in a different level of businesses comparable to the past. The guest this morning is going to bring a lot of insightful information, expertise to this particular topic and conversation. The guest this morning is the founder and CEO of the LCM Group, LLC, based out of Alpharetta, Georgia, no other than Shelly Jeffcoat. Good morning, Shelly. How are you doing?
I'm great, and for that type of introduction, the check is in the mail.
Oh, thank you. Split it with Stan, too.
Right.
And
It's
everything.
a small check, Stan.
Small check. Shelly, before we get into our main topic of discussion, could you kind of let people know a little bit about yourself and background briefly?
Yeah, so I've worked in the corporate space as a brand expert for many, many years. I've actually been in corporate America for about 30 years or so, and I launched LCM Group last year. We owned a brand called PI, Proud, Inspired, Empowered, and part of that was delivering offerings for teens and veteran small business owners. So teens for personal brand, to prepare them for college, and veteran small business owners really to help them build their business strategy. And on top of that, we've just been really blessed. We have various podcasts. I'm an author, and I'm kind of all over the place. But I'm really excited to be here to share a lot of lessons learned when it comes to social media marketing and encouraging other folks who might be considering moving into that space.
Well, Shelly, when you get into the business side of social media, is this kind of like a new trend that has recently really grown, or is this something that's kind of been around since the introduction of the internet?
It's been around since the introduction of MySpace. So
Okay.
if you're at that age, I'm over 50, y'all. So I've been in this space for quite some time, like many others. But I think what's happened after the pandemic, a lot of individuals lost their income, lost their jobs, and so there were a lot of people who took to social media as a way to leverage their passion, put a plan behind it, and start monetizing on content and content management, things like that. But the social media space has always been there. A lot of people are more familiar with influencers or what it looks like on TikTok and things of that nature. But this is not new at all.
Well, when you're trying to branch into social media for business, it's a little bit different than just the general operation of social media. I mean, when you're trying to establish a business and generate revenue, what is it that you have to kind of learn towards the beginning level to get to the lucrative level?
So just to start, if you're in business, you have to have a strategy. So I usually ask people why they're doing it. A lot of businesses use social media for awareness or a way to get visibility to the products or the services that they offer. And then there are other businesses that might add other edutainment components to what they have to offer. So as an example, LCM Group, we offer a suite of products and services, but we also host 3 different lives on social media every week. So we have a healthy social media presence. And so I think if you're looking at social media and how to amplify your business, like anything else, you really have to start with why you're doing this and what your target audience is and what you expect to get out of it.
Well, Shelly, is there different type of ways that you can go into business? Like, can you expand your current business? Can you create a new business? Can you co-business with other people? I mean, is it like a traditional business form when you're creating opportunities in social media?
So social media is a little bit different in the sense that you have to start by having a brand. So in the same way you would as a person having a personal brand and becoming an influencer that way, your business has to have an established brand around that. So what does that mean? Literally who you are and what you're offering to your target audience. That might be your community in terms of turning over followers into customers, and really making sure that you're consistent in the messaging. So a lot of companies, they'll start with, I just want to go on social media and I don't know what to say. Having a good understanding of what that is and what you're trying to achieve is really key. So I would start there. What is it? What's the problem you're trying to solve in your business? And then you align a social media strategy to kind of resolve that.
But Shelly, if you're like establishing a YouTube channel and you're
Yes.
trying to grow your YouTube, what am I saying? Man? YouTube channel. Let's say
Yes.
you're trying to grow that towards viewership and subscribers. Is that like a business side too? Could you classify owning and building a YouTube channel as a business?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of different monetization strategies, what we call them. There's one in the sense that you're doing brand and influencer marketing, and this actually takes time. So this is not something where you start posting things on YouTube and then tomorrow the algorithm likes you,
Hmm.
and it kind of turns into kind of a blow up or a glow up, right? So the first thing is understanding what your monetization strategy is. So a brand and influencer marketing is usually someone who has a really authentic passion, and they build the followers and then persuade those followers to do something like buy a product. The second though is business ownership, where you build your business brand and you ship that into maybe speaking engagements or partnerships, or even lives like this one, and from there kind of monetizing that. But regardless, wherever you start, I always tell people that there's a really good book that's on the market. It's on Amazon, called The YouTube Formula. So if you're interested in starting YouTube, I always point people, go read this book first, because everything on YouTube is driven by data. And when you watch those videos, it's really important to understand how you're tracking behavior, metrics, and other relevant data. So I would start with that book.
Now, with different forms, Sean Shelley, with different forms of social media, TikTok, you see, is
Yes.
growing. Facebook has been around. YouTube, of course, is like a big platform. Is it like a traditional business though? Like people would say, or experts would say, most businesses, new businesses, usually fail within the first 5 years. Could you
Yes.
kind of translate that into the same level as social media?
Yeah, so one of the biggest myths I think about social media, and when people see YouTube influencers, by the way, you're a micro influencer if you have somewhere between a thousand and less than 10,000 followers all across your social media space. And I know I'm touching on YouTube, but there are other platforms: TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook are also, considered great platforms to create a presence. But I think one of the things that people miss and why they fail is that they don't really understand why they're doing it. So there's no social media strategy. A lot of people start with their passion. So for example, if you have a passion for cooking and you're filming that, and then you're building your followers and building a community from that, and then from there you're learning the data and the analytics and what goes into creating those videos, then over time you'll be able to monetize on that. The second thing is, I think a lot of people compare themselves to others. So they'll look at somebody who blew up on TikTok after being on TikTok for 1 year, and say, well, I can do that. But there are millions of people on TikTok, and a lot of those success stories that you're seeing have teams behind them. So they're not
Hmm.
necessarily doing it themselves. And I think the last thing is just not being honest about why you're doing this. If you're doing this, as a way to make money, then you need to be upfront and then align your strategies towards that, to making sure that you're doing this to make money. So you're gonna have all of the tools and resources, the data, and all those things to kind of support what you're doing.
Well, Shirley, even if you're doing something to make money, and that's something that's like any other business, you're in a business to make a profit. You're not in a
Yes.
business to to be locked into the red. But if you don't have really, because people say with social media, it's still about content. And now, I would assume you could kind of be lucky in some cases, like if you're LeBron James' son, it might make it a little bit easier for you to get millions of people to watch you because of who your father consists of. But
Yes.
that's usually not going to be the norm. You really got to stand out, would you say, and have a strong content and something really
Absolutely.
solid to offer?
Absolutely. And so I also remind, this is where it starts with passion, and what is it that makes you stand out? And quite frankly, it's you. So so an example is, and this is for those of you who might have started a YouTube channel, maybe you stopped, you feel like, okay, it's not taking off. But as an example, when we relaunched my YouTube and my channels, and I'm actually a part of a community called Parade Deck. We're a group of military influencers, and there are a total of there's over 6 million subscribers in totality within our community that we support. So I'm sharing examples of failures, and then kind of turning that around. So I mentioned that I own a brand called Pi, and I needed to really own that as a part of my brand. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to become Mrs. Pi. This is at the center of everything that I'm doing. All of my values, my business is aligned to that. And so we literally took that over, but there was work involved. So I had to go back through all of my previous YouTube videos, changing all of the thumbnails, and again, reading all the analytics and trying to figure out like what were the ways that we could improve in the way we're presenting the information. All that information, it's not just simply just creating or basing it on luck. You still have to deal with the algorithm itself on YouTube, or same thing on LinkedIn, because that's another really great channel. So I think for me, it's really understanding who you are and what it is that you're trying to offer. And then when you build the brand, when people come to know, like they know they come to my channels for X, and this is a part of how we build community, and we foster that sense of community, and then we monetize on that. We end up selling products and services to people that are united around my passion, but there's a product at the end of that. And so that, I think those are things that people need to keep in mind. When you're on YouTube, for example, make sure that you're watching to learn. You're not just watching for entertainment. So during the pandemic, a lot of people were on YouTube, watching how to bake bread and make yogurt, right? And I was one of them. I was watching every single perfume and luxury haul there was. But then it flipped. I started to watch to learn how those YouTubers were presenting the information, what happens in the first 10 to 20 seconds of each video, and how they manage their editing. And then I started looking through the data. So I switched from watching to just be entertained to learning how this is run, because again, those are businesses. So we're not all fortunate enough to have a celebrity parent or family member where we can kind of borrow their brand to launch our brands. So it's just really important that you take the time to do that.
Well, that's true, because people will always say in the past, if your father owns the company or he's a millionaire, it's going to obviously could make it very easy for you just through his name recognition and his connections and everything else. But most people are not going to have a famous or rich person already in business, although you hear businesses are growing, and sometime on the images side it's giving people the impression that it's very easy to jump into business and really be successful. But there's a lot of hard work and a lot of preparation, as you mentioned, to go along with just talent too. I guess talent, yes. You can say that stands out too, having talent. I do want to bring you kind of into this conversation, Stan, because you have a social media television network, so you're classified as a business owner too. So you always say, Stan, you're doing something you really for two reasons in this level of communication, either for a message or for money. Sometimes you mention it can be beneficial for both, but usually it's one or the other. You still feel that way?
Message or money, generally speaking. If you're in this for the message, you're not going to make money.
Okay.
Unless your message is the kind of message that resonates among a whole lot of people that just want to part with money and donate to you or something like that. But the thing that I would say would come close to that would be like a television ministry.
Okay.
People supporting the ministry because of the message. But there are not a lot of things that, public broadcasting is a good example. They have quality programs. But if they weren't underwritten by major organizations, the viewers would not support them. So, things, so it's message or money. Now, if you're in it for the money, then you have to follow. There's rules.
That's right.
And there's a lot of people that spend a lot of money on network programs that don't make it past the first season. Some don't make it past the pilot. So there's rules to this if you want to make money. Yeah.
You have any questions or any comments you want to make to our guest?
I don't believe in backup sermon. What she's saying is absolutely right.
Okay.
Just listen to her.
Let's listen to her. That's the
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, again, Shelly, could you let people know again a little bit about your current transition process from corporate America into social media or social online business, however you want to classify?
Yeah, so before we do that, if you don't mind, I wanted to just address something around roadblocks, because this is usually the first question that I get with people who are, and again, maybe it's maybe you are in the corporate space and you're considering moving into owning something. And by the way, that is just a part of my legacy. I grew up with parents. I'm West Indian, and it's just a part of our legacy to own something. But there is a mindset shift that needs to happen if you're having roadblocks around why you should even consider what we're talking about today. And three things that I usually get from people is I'm too old to learn the technology. I don't have anything to share, or I don't understand how to make money on YouTube or in a business. So I think the first thing is when I decided to launch this business of mine, it was actually built. LCM Group was built as a response to needs from my daughter. So I mentioned that I own the brand Pi, and really I was trying to come up with messaging. To Stan's point, I was coming up with messaging for teens, trying to help them to feel proud, inspired, empowered during the pandemic and all the things that were happening during 2020. And that just launched into writing books and journals. And then I wanted to create a space where I was, just expanding that to veterans. My husband's an Air Force veteran. And that just, kind of grew our business. So we've been very, very, very blessed watching this thing kind of take off. We're now globally acknowledged for being the only company that offers affordable branding for our diverse communities, and we also have courses and things of that nature. And I mentioned I'm known as Mrs. Pi because we have those lives every Tuesday. We honor companies and entrepreneurs and business owners and interview folks in the community. On Thursdays we have a teen segment that we talk to kids, and on Thursday morning I lead a prayer group live, y'all. Online. And then Fridays I have a business segment. So for those of you who are thinking about shifting, I call it shifting from passion to purpose, you got to have a plan, and it takes time. So last year we were planting all the seeds, and we've just been amazed about all the response that we've received. By the way, this is business 101. Make sure that there's a need for the business that you're launching, and then this year we're just watering the flowers. We're coming back to just see the ground that we've already touched, and then next year will be harvest. So I'm encouraging anyone who is thinking about starting something. If you have a passion behind it, you still do have to have a purpose and a plan to support that. And that's kind of where this thing I think is going to be amazing. My company is built to support globally, and we're just excited on the journey that we have.
Well, Shelly, again, when you're getting into business on the social media online side of the spectrum, what is the cost, though, when you're really getting started? I mean, towards the equipment, towards other fees? I mean, could you kind of break down what's the usual cost that you have to have available?
So here's where it depends. And I try to tell people, don't go spending a lot of money you don't have in the beginning. It's more important for you to have a good brand strategy in place. So for example, I use StreamYard, and I'm not affiliated. I'm not getting paid. This is not a paid sponsorship, but I use StreamYard because that helps us to record our live videos and have that shown on multi-channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube simultaneously. So that, for example, that is a small cost. I think it's like $40 a month. But I didn't go and buy a fancy headphones or anything like that until I realized that I needed the equipment to support what I was doing. And for me, everything is built on ROI. What's the return I'm getting? And so I was watching return on YouTube. By the way, for those of you who are new to that platform, the toughest thing you'll do is getting past your first 100 subscribers. I did not know that. I'm a part of a larger community of influencers, but I had to learn all those things. So at first, I think the commitment and the sacrifice you're going to make is going to be based on your time. Investing money into tools and equipment, I weighed on that. So just start with if you have a basic phone, like I started with my iPhone. I have an iPhone 13 Pro, and that was an investment that I had to make. That was a product that was selected to support the business because I needed to be able to create videos and store it and things like that. It's thinking about, what are some of the other costs, location costs. So for example, because my wall that you're seeing behind me is actually a part of my brand, I didn't have to pay for a studio redo. So I'm using the things that I have right now. And other things, like if you start moving towards editing and editing services, or if you're someone who needs scripts written, then you're thinking about the cost of hiring someone through Upwork or Fiverr, if that's your thing. So it's really being keen about what is it that you're trying to accomplish with your channel. And again, start small. It could be, if cooking is your thing, then you have your phone, your smartphone, and you're literally recording on that in your kitchen, and then you can edit that way and upload, and that way you can get a good sense of whether or not you want to spend more money on additional tools. One other tool I want to just throw out is called TubeBuddy, and that's a tool that you definitely should pay for in the early days, but that helps you with analytics and things of that nature. So those are kind of the key things. Hire a consultant, and then when I say a consultant, hire someone who can help you with the business strategy, making sure that you're aligning this back. Again, it's either to Stan's point, it's either message or money. So which one are you going to focus on, and then someone can help you with that. And by the way, we can help you do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, Stan, I kind of want to bring you back into the conversation because I think in today's era, you're looking at a lot of images online, and I don't know if everything that you're seeing online is always accurate. I mean, I'm looking at segments where people are leaving their jobs, leaving their so-called not so much a business, but let's just say their 9-to-5 typical job, and they're branching into social media. And it's being reported that they're making big sums of money. But is everything that you're seeing accurate? Do they have to really tell you the truth? Like if someone is saying that they're making $100,000 a day or a week, could they lie and make that up? I just want to clarify that.
Yes, they can absolutely lie and make that up.
Okay.
But it's just like someone trying to sell you a vending machine franchise.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna puff that up. Why are you, not necessarily you, but why is the individual, as she mentioned, is this something you want to do?
Right.
Is this your passion? Is it a passion that you can turn into an income? If this is something you want to do as a business, then you need to apply business principles and strategies to it. It may be enticing and it may look good and feel good, but look at what it's going to take in order to make this happen. Mm-hmm. It's no different than someone telling you, if you move out here to Hollywood, I've got a part for you in an upcoming movie project I'm working on. Mm-hmm. But you don't think about, well, how much is going to cost to move out there? Where am I going to stay? Who do I know? What's the likelihood? What's going to happen to me if I don't get the part? So you have to be a little less emotional and more logical in your thinking. Mm-hmm. Yes, people do make lots of money. Mm-hmm. And she's explaining to you exactly how that's done.
Right.
A big part of being an influencer is not how much money you make through quote unquote like commercials or these things. It's how do you leverage what you have and turn it into opportunities. So mm-hmm. It can be done.
All right.
And everyone that tries is not going to succeed. Mm-hmm. But if you don't try, you have no chance of success. Mm-hmm. So step out there and do it.
Well, Shelly, again, that kind of gets into the ratio. Is there a high percentage of turnover ratio, like any particular business or job? I think I asked you that question already.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a high percentage of failure. But I love that. Here's this point that I want to make. Obviously, you can't believe everything you see on the social mm-hmm. media streets,
right?
Because people show you what they want to see. So for me, whenever I see something like, an ad or someone basically doing their Instagram pose next to the Ferrari to say how great life is, mm-hmm. my initial question is, why are you showing me that?
Right. Okay.
But you have to also understand on the other side of that, it's storytelling to get you to buy the product, and the product is the influencer. right? So back in the day, in the 80s or the 90s, when I was coming up in business, an influencer is really a salesperson. So now you have a method to the madness where you can go out and become an influencer, become a top salesperson where brands are attracted to you because you have the followers or the community to support and sell their products. That's essentially what it is. But yeah, obviously everything on social media isn't true, and you know you got to just be mindful. A lot of times, you're seeing influencers that are also showing you things that are brand buys, or brands are asking them to represent the product. So you go on YouTube and there are a lot of luxury hauls, and then you find out that they don't actually own the luxury items that they were hauling, right? You just got to be mindful of what it is you're seeing, and that's a cautionary tale to anyone who's trying to come into the social media space as well, that eventually, if you're just faking it, people are going to find out.
Right.
People are going to know after time. And that impacts your reputation. So if you're doing this as a business, that's why it's so important to have the business principles that Stan mentioned, right? Is making sure that there is a thought about why you're doing this. Where are you trying to get to get to with this? Are you selling to a target audience? How are you managing the relationships within the community? An example of a quick takedown is you build an incredible network, you have a lot of followers, you're doing very well on social media, and a customer has a claim that you didn't respond to. That customer goes on Yelp and it's a takedown. It's just that simple. So it's just being really mindful about, again, basics. What is it that you're trying to sell? What's the value your customers are going to get, whether you're considered an influencer or not?
Well, one thing about you, Shelly, is when we talked about this a little bit off of the air, you're not actually making a total leave. You're kind of doing something like a transition. Because most people will tell you when they put these images online about, well, they just basically left their job, just like that, and they jumped into online business, or they brought their business onto an online platform. But there's a difference between just like quitting a job and leaving a job towards making a transition into this business world.
Listen, I've been known and not on social media for many years. So a lot of things that I've been doing, coaching, mentoring small businesses, all of these things, branding, all of those things, been in sales and marketing for a long time. So what people are seeing now is just me messaging it differently, and it's aligned to LCM Group. That's what it is. So folks will see it. The ones that know me will say, of course, that's just who she is. That's all she's been doing. For those of you who are, you're in a good job, you're in a 9 to 5, don't jump ship until you have at least 6 months of salary or almost a year worth of salary built up. This is not something that, and again, with any business that you go into, this isn't something that you just want to decide tomorrow that, okay, I'm just going to be on social media. There are millions of people on social media. What is the value that you bring, and what's the return? What's the actual return on the products you're going to be selling on social media? And that product could be you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just think the thing about social media for young people who are just still maybe not fully developed, and then that could be for older people as well, you get this misconception that you don't really need higher education. You don't really need a job. You can get, and I guess you could get education online too. So that's another form of education. But I think a lot of people who are just not, grounded enough or know enough about the business side may be falling into this mindset that you see people with a YouTube channel, see people on social media, and you don't have to really have a typical structure like a job where you have to be at a place all day. That's what I'm hearing a lot of people also presenting, that they're able to utilize their time. They can do things 2 or 3 hours and still get the full benefits comparable to a job. So I think you got to really be, like you say, Stan and Shelly, well grounded and not kind of uninformed. I mean, just don't have the basic information. It's a very tricky game when you're getting into this.
It's tricky, but I'm smiling because It's like any other thing that you enterprise. You know, people don't. They see that you open up a store. They don't see that you only got 3 hours of sleep last night.
Right.
You know, there's no way you're gonna do this like 2 or 3 hours a day. It's just not gonna happen. This takes a lot of time. A lot of time.
Right.
And if you know, just getting that first 100 subscribers, I'm telling you, this is not for the faint of heart. It's exciting, it's fun, but it's like any other new venture. You have to be 110% in. And so it's not just quit your job and start this. This takes some research and some doing, and that's the only thing I want to make it so that you fully understand and the gravity of doing this. And if you don't have a team behind you, then you're the team.
Right.
You're doing the research. You're doing the reading. I mean, you may read for months before you have the working understanding of how all of it works. So it's one thing when it's a kind of like an extension of what you've been doing and are doing, and now it's another. It's like an evolution of what you were to the next level. But if you are coming in on the ground level, you know, I've never played basketball. So how am I gonna try out for the NBA? I don't even have the stamina to run back and forth the court 2 times. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. That's all.
Well, see, I think the one thing, Stan and Shelly, comparable, you just mentioned sports, is that this is something that people will say sometime in the workforce after a certain age, you kind of may be aged out. I mean, I don't think, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't think the average person is going to start going to medical school at 50 years old of age to learn how to become a doctor, although you can still do it. I don't think an average person is going to start to become a building trades electrician or construction worker in your 50s, in your 60s, because, you know, physically nature of the job. But would you say like this form of social media, you can kind of get into it at an older age and still
Absolutely. I'm 51, okay?
Okay.
So for all the over 50s out there, yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, what makes us a little bit different is that we have experience behind what we're trying to do, and we have a better understanding of how to play the game in business, right? Because this is a business. And so when you understand, you know, listen, you're gonna at some point have to scale. So if you come on social media because you want to, you're supporting a business that you have. So for example, maybe you've opened a store and this is an extension of, you know, showing people what you do in the store. I'm working with a client now is a veteran small business, and he does woodworking, amazing craftsman. And as an extension of what he does, we're building a strategy so that he can get more visibility and awareness and build out his community so that he can get more clients, right? So there's a strategy behind it. But, you know, you don't have to, it's not age related. Many of us, again, within my age, you know, we weren't on social media. I was using a beeper back in the day, right? So this is new for a lot of us. But it's just, again, you know, we have a good understanding of how to align and tell our own stories, and then doing it in a way that we can reach a community. The 50+ community is all of that, and I'm proud to be in it. So, make no mistake, we absolutely can join this game.
And would you also say today, I mean, some people like to always make comparisons. Well, you have this form of technology and it could be replacing certain levels of the workforce, but it's also increasing opportunities and establishing a new, I guess we try to outline this theme as a new form of a business or an economy through social media. You know, what exists. So whether people like it or whether people got issues with it, how people are functioning. Some people saying people are not getting the human interaction like they used to, but it's here. Would you say as a society as a whole, we're much better off with technology labeled into social media than we
Absolutely.
were not in
I
the
mean,
past?
quite frankly, if we didn't have this type of technology, we wouldn't be here on accesstvnetwork.com.
Exactly. That's
Right?
You're right.
So technology enables us to to make these types of leaps and changes. And, I think the conversation that needs to be had is around AI and the role that AI plays. And a lot of people are just learning Chat GTP and trying to figure out what that means. There's a need, again, for people to upskill. So if you're in a role and there's a need for you to upskill, don't wait on your employer to open the opportunity to do that. That's something you do on your own, right? We all need to kind of stay ready. But social media, again, is just another tool with mediums that you could use to send that message out. It's another communication tool. And we watch that in the way that streaming services, remember we used to get the DVDs in the mail from Netflix, and now we're just streaming. So it's just the way that innovation is allowing us to reach more people globally.
Shelly, do you see any other new forms of social media that's going to be developing over the next 2 to 3, maybe 5 years beyond what we have now?
I think what we have now is actually just going to be, more people are going to join the party, if you will. So for a lot of people, there were people on YouTube for many, many years, and a lot of the YouTubers who've been around for 10 years or so, they're finally seeing the ROI on their end. But there weren't that many people joining until really after I think the pandemic brought a lot of changes. So I think people are really going to lean into the platforms that are already there with TikTok and like I mentioned, YouTube, and Facebook groups is another one that's coming back. We're seeing people because people are looking for community. So that's coming back. And then also LinkedIn is another great one for professionals. By the way, if you're not on LinkedIn and you're a professional, make sure you have a profile on there. Those are the main ones. You're still keeping our eye on what AI means and how we can improve the way that we create what we call copy and the way that we communicate and things like that. But I'm actually excited about what's going to happen with more content being available on programs or networks like Access TV, to see that there's more segmented programming and more content coming in so that we could reach a broader audience. So I'm personally watching the Access TV space to see what's going to happen in terms of building out more content.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. It's a tremendous. I mean, Stan too. This is your network, so she's gonna start watching the network. So,
well, this is always great. It's always great.
Stan, you mentioned in the past though that Skype really wasn't that good as the Zoom. I mean, you didn't say that.
Skype was a forerunner of a lot of things, but Skype was a little ahead of its time, but it led the way.
Right.
When Skype was out, bandwidth wasn't available like it is now.
Okay.
So things have changed in the interim. Things like Zoom came along, but Zoom was here for a long time. Mm-hmm. The pandemic made Zoom.
Right. The pandemic. Okay.
They were in the right place at the right time, and it's what everyone heard, and they went to that first, and it just blew up. But they had everything in place. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like what you see here. Now, everyone's trying to do what Zoom does, but Zoom is keeping their competitive edge and their advantage. Mm-hmm. And so, that's, I sit down and talk to the business people from Zoom to, talk about how they keep Zoom.
Well, is Skype outdated now? Would you say Skype is kind of?
I have a Skype account. I don't even know. I know my Skype name, but I haven't used Skype since the last time I tried to use Skype, and it didn't work.
It didn't work, right?
The way I wanted it to.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Shelly, again, I mean, you're down in the metro Atlanta area. You're networking with some tremendous organizations. Is there anything new that you are pushing, or that I think I might have asked you this question, but is anything new again that you're working towards in the very near future?
There's a lot. So there's a lot of amazing things going on. I just wanted to give a quick shout out, if I could, to the Atlanta Black Chambers, of which LCM Group is a proud and active member. We have an event coming up on June 24th, an in-person event, which is the second part of our social media training, strategy training for business owners. I'm really excited to be co-presenting at that event. So if y'all are in the Atlanta area, It's on all my channels, but please come out and come meet us. And, we're there to help. But there's so much going on, on my Parade Deck channel, or you can YouTube me, you can Google me as Mrs. Pie. But there's a lot of things that are happening in terms of events and lives and things that we have going on. I'm really excited. I wanted to touch on real quickly what Stan said. I don't even remember Skype, which is so sad. It's only been a couple of years. But what Zoom did a fantastic job of messaging their capabilities and showing people. And Microsoft Teams did not. So that hits the note that Stan was making about technology evolving.
Right. Well, Shelley, you don't buy into the fact, because people say Facebook is just too saturated. You don't really look at that really as a problem when people say
No.
that. Okay.
No, I think so. Facebook, okay, so as a business, you can buy ads and segment and target your audience on Facebook. But Facebook, just like anywhere else, same thing on Twitter. Yes, there's a lot of junk no matter where it is. Same thing on LinkedIn, right? But you have to be cautious about the communities that you're building. And that is your responsibility, right? So if you have a business Facebook page and the messaging that you're sharing on your page is attracting a certain persona, that's on you. That's something that you course correct, but don't discount Facebook. There are a lot of mom groups on Facebook and community groups on Facebook that are looking for small business owners to come in and support, and likewise a lot of small businesses on Facebook that are looking to reach clients and audiences that way. So definitely don't discount Facebook. But you don't have to. Same with LinkedIn. You don't have to like and comment on anything or everything. So that's just a cautionary tale.
Well, Shelley, when you get into like Facebook and FaceTime and WhatsApp, is there just about the same, or is there some differences between FaceTime and WhatsApp? If you're gonna make like a long distance video call and you decide whether you want to choose FaceTime or WhatsApp, is there any big difference between the two?
So that's really your own preference. So for example, I'm West Indian, so most of my family is not in this country. Here we are in the US. And so we use WhatsApp for that. That's fantastic for international free free video calls. And then FaceTime, it just depends. Again, if you have that technology on your phone, and that's what you do. But it's really your choice. I think the only thing I want to caution with people is I'm always thinking about the security when it comes to opening some of these apps on my phone. So I'm very particular. I do use WhatsApp. Rarely use FaceTime. And because I have a paid Zoom account, if I'm having family gatherings, that's what we use.
Okay. Well, I do hear there's a little bit of a security that you may get better with WhatsApp than FaceTime or Facebook, because you could also make calls on Messenger, Facebook as well too.
That's
to
right.
Go along with FaceTime. Shelley, it seemed like it took a long time though, from decades ago, to put this type of technology platform together. But it seems like since it's been established, it's really moving rapidly. Is there any other major technical formats that you see could take things, again, I asked you this already, within the next 5 to 10 years, way beyond what we currently have? Just wanted to get that clarified again.
So I used to be an engineer, so I'm gonna throw in my engineer cap to say, don't watch what's coming when it comes to that, because there are things that need to be worked out with the current tools that we have, and having them mature over time. So for example, I'm not a fan of just trying to figure out what's going to happen on the next great thing, the next big thing. I use what works for me until there's a feature or something that's needed, that's missing from that tool. So I would say, just make a concerted effort to understand what the mediums are that are available to you now. Know how to use these mediums. So for example, I know we dropped TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, and by the way, I'm not saying that you need to be on all of them, which ones work for your particular audience and your business needs. and then looking for the features that those tools can provide in the future. But what's coming next is more around video. I know that on Instagram, for example, they're shifting away from pictures and to more videos. So for those of you all who are not comfortable doing reels, but you want to increase your followers on Instagram, you're going to need to do more reels. By the way, you can do reels on YouTube. You can do reels on Facebook as well. So it's those type of things. It's more about the feature and tying it back to how you're messaging out to your audiences.
Well, one other thing, Shelly, is there any truth to the matter that even though you have the internet open, you still can't just put anything? There's still some restrictions on what you can put on the internet. I'm certain, like Facebook and other sites, or is it like a free fall? You can just put anything that you want. I mean, this.
Yeah, each platform has its governance, so they do have some words that are flagged. Hate group or hate speech, things like that. There are some things that are flagged. But if you are trying to build a business, reputation management should be a part of your strategy, right?
Right.
So I am very careful about what I say, what I like, what I retweet. I ask myself, is this helpful or harmful to my brand, right? And so if it's harmful to my brand, I'm not touching it. There are things that I agree in principle that I'll see on social media, especially on LinkedIn and the business community, but I won't like it. I won't share it because I understand that it might have an impact on my brand or my target customers and things of that nature. But yeah, you just have to be mindful of what you're saying. Remember that, people can still Google you and see what you said 10 years ago on social media. So just making sure that you're managing that space.
Exactly. And again, Stan, I mean, I just want to make sure if you have any other questions or comments you want to address while we have Shelly on air, just want to get that.
No, I'm. This is a master class. I hope people are listening and learning.
Exactly.
Obviously, you can say anything anywhere. I'm a free speech absolutist. But the things you say might bring about a response you don't like. So remember that's And you just have to be responsible.
Well, I was also talking about like the FCC regulates certain things that you could say on television and on the radio. So I didn't know if the internet had that on.
I think the internet's a little bit more. There's more freedom in that space because it's not broadcast through the general airwaves. But the platforms themselves have reputations, and there are some things that the Facebook police are real.
Okay.
You mess around if you want. You log on to your account, it's gone.
That's gone. So
there's no one to call, no one to complain to. Play by the rules or get out of the sandbox. It's just really, really that simple, and so it works. It really does work.
It does. Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to clarify that and just to make sure and everything. Well, Shelly, obviously, you bring a lot. I give you an A+ grade, and the only person I ever gave an A+ grade on the show was Mayor Shirley Franklin of Atlanta when she came on the second time. And I think your presentation and what you brought towards information and accuracy definitely came across towards an A rating level. And definitely networking with the Atlanta Black Chambers is a tremendous format. Very glad that I got the referral from the Atlanta Black Chambers to have you as a guest, kind of under short notice, and I really appreciate your availability and your interest also. If there's any last things you would like to address or anything else, feel free to do so.
So just a couple of things. The first thing is just a reminder for those who are looking into YouTube and trying to transition or build a business. Make sure that you're watching to learn, not just for entertainment. That is rule number one for YouTube. And the second thing is I just wanted to say a humble thank you so much for having me on your amazing program. I actually am a fan, so this is kind of awesome to just be here. So thanks for allowing me to come on and share.
Thank you. And, the invitation is always open in the future. If there's anything else that you're working on or that you're networking that you want to get across, as a big fan now, we definitely would love to invite you back in the very near future if it's something that you feel, you want to address and it fits into the topic as well. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
You're
Well,
welcome.
thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us, and keep watching and join us, and comment. You're a regular guest now, so you feel free to come by anytime, anytime. All right. God bless you, and continued success with what you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. And take care, Shelly. Okay. Very good interviewer. She brings a lot to the table, obviously. I spoke to her a few days ago, and I knew she was going to be exceptional towards her presentation. And this topic came about kind of suddenly. Really wasn't planning this topic for a while.
It was a great topic. It's a great topic because you've brought this subject up on many occasions, and we go back. But she's an expert.
An expert, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I put you as an expert too, but she's.
That's different. You always want to find another.
Expert, or does another
reference? a second opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes 3,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes 4.
Right.
To make sure that what you're hearing lines up with the way things really should be.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes people have agendas or interests that serve them, but not necessarily you.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone doesn't subscribe to mutual beneficial relationships. Some people subscribe to use relationships, which I find the most toxic and most damaging. But their philosophy is, well, I'm gonna use them before they use me,
Right.
and that to me doesn't benefit anybody. But a mutually beneficial relationship where folk are trying to help other people. So if you're seeking help for a problem that you need resolved,
Mm-hmm.
ask 2 or 3 people, and if their opinions are the same, then you're probably heading down the right path.
The right path, exactly.
Yeah,
And that's good too, because like I said, you mentioned a lot of things that I brought to you about social media, going into business, making money, the message or money. And I think, again, she kind of backed up many things that you stated. Even when I brought up about the Skype and the bandwidth that you had Zoom for a while, just the bandwidth wasn't really available like it is now.
Well, we had Skype.
Right.
I never really used Zoom until the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that might have been, like you mentioned, and Shelly mentioned, the real turning point of Zoom when you had the pandemic. So again, I was really glad to get this interview across and bring this subject matter across. And obviously, if there's something else in the future about social media, television, or videos, I have an expert now to always refer to. And you too, again, I give you as an expert, but sometimes you might just say, I told you this already. Why keep coming back to me? I done told you this already.
So, make it sound like that.
How many times I got to tell you the same thing before you start to see and that.
I never said nothing like that on the air.
No. But I've talked about going to business and all of that, turn Access TV to a different level, and it's gonna make money just like that. But no, it's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of big news stories over the past week or so. Nationally, locally.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see, where do we begin? I guess this man in New Haven won a big lawsuit from the police officers. What's his name? Randy Cox, I believe, in New Haven.
Oh, the way he was mistreated.
Well, he was mistreated, but he ended up being paralyzed.
Yeah.
And then attorney Ben Crump, as usual, he's always at the forefront.
Crump is there. You're going to lose.
You're going to lose, exactly. So, a record. But see, the thing about that, yes, the record number, I guess the record amount of money awarded to Randy Cox. But being paralyzed, I don't think you can put a price tag on.
There's no price tag. There's no price tag. Your mobility, your freedom, your quality of life being diminished because people there's no reason to treat another human being in that fashion. Just isn't. It's unnecessary.
Well, how could you make a mistake by not putting the person on seat belts? He was I guess, put in the back of a van, and you're supposed to put seat belts, I guess strap you down. They had the handcuffs. Could you imagine driving and they brakes and you can't even brace yourself? That can't just be a simple accident.
No, that's not a simple accident.
Yeah.
That's done purposely.
On purpose.
They take you for a ride in the back of the van and bounce you around, and
Yeah.
that there's no reason to do that. There's no reason. There's no reason.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason.
Right. But I believe there's going to be some tremendous changes in New Haven now because of that.
Yeah, the city can't afford those kinds of suits because it has bad actors in the police department. There's nothing that justifies that.
Right.
Nothing. Nothing.
Just the amount caught me a little bit off guard. I wasn't expecting that amount, but certainly, they sending a strong message.
Been sent. Get your police officers under control. Not only you in New Haven, but everywhere around the country, around the state.
Right.
Right. If you have rogue cops who don't know how to behave, they think because they have a badge and have been sanctioned by the citizens to enforce the rules, that somehow cowboys could do whatever they want. That's just absolutely not the case. It shouldn't be tolerated.
It's a humane situation. You put someone in the back of a van, and it's almost like you deliberately now even slam the brakes, realizing you have someone in the back. And every now and then something happens where, a person may have to slam the brakes. You getting close to a red light or someone jumps in front of you. But it seemed like to me that was also planned too. I mean, was it a coincidence that they were driving real fast and they slammed the brakes and knew this person couldn't really brace himself? You just have to wonder, is that all part of their planning before they had
whether it was planned or whether it was intentional, whether it was unintentional, the consequences are still the same. To whom much is given, much is required. If we as a society give you the authority to use deadly force and equip you with a weapon that discharges a projectile that moves at thousands of feet a second, give you a baseball bat that you can carry around and cameras to make sure that we watch what you're doing. If you can't behave yourself, there's a place for you too, called jail or out of a job. Right. Just because you're a police officer doesn't put you above the law. You're not Judge Dredd.
Right.
You're a law enforcement officer. If someone is accused of breaking breaking the law, then you arrest, detain them, and you take them in, and then they go to a court. A bunch of Yahoo cops out here running around. There's no excuse for that. It shouldn't be tolerated. Right. In cities that have city council people who are supposed to be giving oversight and review boards that allow that kind of activity should be swept into the net of accountables. It's ridiculous. There's no justification or rationale. It is a blatant abuse of power and authority by the individuals who do these things.
Right. Yeah.
And it's absolutely within the realm of the society and the citizens to control that kind of activity.
Well, I got to be honest, I really wasn't paying attention to this case. I remember hearing about it, but just really wasn't following it. And I guess it just made the media when the decision or the verdict came down to have the city of New Haven, I guess found responsible for the lawsuit. So definitely, try to move forward and make sure this never happens again to our best of our ability. Because it's really just uncalled for to have someone treated like that. And there's been other incidents I'm hearing about throughout the country. I think somebody was found eaten up by bed bugs in a Fulton County jail in Atlanta. Sometimes, Stan, you'll be surprised what's really taking place, maybe that you don't always hear about. And it's not
I would not be surprised.
Okay. But some people just may not be aware until something actually makes the news.
There's a whole nother realm of people who live in our country. And on our street, there's the unseen individuals that live here in Hartford.
Right.
The people that live in the shadows, folks living under the bridges. I mean, there's a whole group of people who are the invisibles.
Right.
And folk don't want to know about them.
Well, I'm glad
They just don't. They don't want to know about them. They don't want to see them. They don't want to hear about them. They don't want to see Hartford's the fourth poorest city of its size. According to some data, it could be the eighth poorest city of its size. But nonetheless, Hartford is gripped by poverty and the things associated with poverty. But if you travel up and down the main thoroughfares, with the exception of North Main Street, you don't see the poverty. It's not naked. It's not exposed. Mm-hmm. It's like everyone is actually naked, but you don't see it because people are wearing clothes. And so if you take the people's clothes off, you can see what they really look like. So, no one wants to see naked people, so they put clothes on them.
Right.
Well, that's how they feel about the poor, the impoverished, those that are in need of help. Mm-hmm. So the poverty is back a couple blocks off the main thoroughfares. So you don't have to see it. You can drive comfortably through Hartford and not see the poverty. And that way it stays out of mind.
Well, that I don't know, but I'm glad you're bringing this up because it kind of leads into what I wanted to really also talk about. I don't know about if you can't see it. I mean, I think if you go to certain areas, if you go up to Unity Plaza and Barber Street,
ain't nobody going up to Unity Plaza. That's not on the sightseeing tour.
Oh, you mean
you can't accidentally drive past Unity Plaza?
But so you're talking about people that just touring.
I'm talking about people who come to Hartford to go to work.
I'm going to work.
And then they go home.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Or people driving through Hartford on their way from Springfield to New Haven.
Okay.
Or driving through Hartford on the way from Manchester to New Britain.
All right.
New Britain. And so, there's even if you have to get off the highway, you come into the city and you go to the Yard Goats game.
Right.
Or you come in here to see the stadium when it's rebuilt and the Whalers come back.
Right.
Or you go to see the soccer game. Or you have to even go to the hospital or to the Mark Twain house. You can go all these places.
And you
go to UConn Law School. You can go to St. Francis Hospital. All right. Or Trinity Healthcare. You can go to any of these places and not have to be impacted by the poverty. Mm-hmm. You go up and down Woodland Street, up and down Asylum, Farmington. Mm-hmm. All right. Maple Avenue. Franklin is getting to be a little bit sketchy.
Oh, yeah. Franklin, Weathersfield Avenue.
Weathersfield.
Yeah.
So, different avenues look nice on the surface, the main thoroughfares. But if you go back a couple blocks, you can see the grips of poverty. And so you can't keep ignoring that. These things need to be addressed.
Well, even the side street, if you get off of Farmington Avenue and you get up off of on South Marshall Street, some young person was shot a couple days ago or yesterday. So you can drive down these streets, like you mentioned, Franklin Avenue is changing. I think you can see the difference of Franklin Avenue, Weathersfield Avenue, and you're going to see some heavy decline. But see, this kind of gets into, I was talking with someone a few days ago, and the person was telling me, I don't know if he was saying there's no such thing when we use the word hood or ghetto. Ghetto came, I believe, from the Jewish. I think ghettos is something that started from the Jewish level. I'm not an expert on that. And hood came from neighborhoods. But when people classify that they live or from the ghetto or hood, it's like they're doing a disservice, and they may not even be really accurate to some degree. I think you can say, what is the definition of a ghetto? What is the definition of a hood?
They mean different things to different people.
But it's usually negative, though.
A lot of negative things are turned into terms of endearment for the people who are impacted by these things. So,
but isn't that like almost saying, and you got to be realistic, if you come to my house, if I'm living on a bad house, a bad street, a rooming house, and, whatever, the door is not, the door is broken, it's dented, it's paint all over the place, I could say I live in a dump. But isn't now I'm putting my own self down when I say them type of words?
If you living in a place where the door's off the hinge, halls is skanky and dirty,
you can't,
and the light is out in the hallway.
Right.
Folk that can't make it all the way to the bathroom decide to use the hall.
Right.
Instead of the people taking the trash out by going down the back stairs, they throw the trash into the dumpster from up on the third floor.
Yeah. Well, does it really matter what you call something?
And you want to call it a palace? That's your That's you whatever works for your head. But if you call it a dump and understand that it is a dump, then you may have the attitude necessary to start to be the author of your own change.
Right.
But if you're good with that, and then that's what floats your boat, then that's your home.
But let me ask you a question. I never really hear you use the word hood or ghetto. I think it's very rare that if I think one time I might have even brought it to you about the hood, and you said that's why it's called the hood. But I rarely, if ever, hear you mention the word hood or ghetto when you're talking about the inner city of Hartford in particular. You just don't use that word.
I don't use those words because it's a neighbor. This is where people live.
Right.
And wherever people live, they call that home. And they like coming home from wherever they go in the world. There's still no place like home.
No, but I still not hearing what I want. A lot of people use the word ghetto and hood, just like people, and I don't use the N word, but some people just feel comfortable using this word. Well, this is the hood, this is the ghetto, man. Like it's an everyday normal way of talking.
For some people it is, Jonathan.
Okay.
Right.
But so there's nothing negative about when it's not like you're putting
it depends on who's using the term and in what context. So if you're going to go and look for the hood,
yeah,
because there's some things you can only get in the hood, certain food, this, that, and the third. So if you're gonna go and you're going to a foreign town, and you're driving around. And suddenly you can tell, we're the hood. All right. Now, for some people, that's home. People go out, they go places, they go to another town. They want to see where the hood is.
But you can't say the word neighborhood, though.
Because hood has a definition and a term. Now, if someone says, those people over there are from the hood. Oh, who do you think you are talking? Now it becomes a negative, a pejorative. It's a negative term, and it's meant to be negative and insulting.
Right.
So the person is having a conversation among friends about a particular part of town that they're looking for, and can speak in code or whatever the case may be. People understand. You don't mean it in a negative way.
Okay.
All right.
So
like storefront church could be in a pejorative. It could be a negative term. Oh, you pastor a little storefront church. All right, now that's very negative.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who just like to go to storefront churches. Where are your little churches at? The storefront churches. I'm looking for a church. When I go in there, I want to have a hard time getting in because the Holy Ghost is so tight.
Right.
That's real. But if you go to one of the big Sedity, 400 churches, they would never be seen in a hood church.
Right.
Or in a storefront church.
Right.
Where the new carpet that you got from the place that just closed up is an upgrade. I've preached at a whole lot of storefront churches. I love going to storefront churches because the people there are real.
Right.
So.
But I think the problem is not so much even the name. I think it's what exists. And people like the late Dr. Osagai used to always come back at me because I used to come on WKND mentioning, you got all these people hanging out on the street corners and everything like that in the inner cities. But he said people from the Caribbean stand outside. People from Africa stand outside. People from England, where he's from or grew up from. It's nothing wrong.
Yeah, people stand outside, right?
But there's something wrong when you get the illegal and negative activity that consists of people, loitering, trashing the place, running red lights.
That's different than people standing outside.
Right. So that's what he was used to always try to clarify me and other people about. Just because you see a group of people, I stand by my car many times. Am I a thug image because you see somebody standing out on a street corner? Now, if a guy is carrying a gun, he's looking to fight someone, that's the problem.
Well, where do you see that happen all the time? I don't see that happen all the time.
Well, there's a lot of reckless dirt bike. I mean, every now and then you'll be on the avenue, Albany Avenue, Franklin Avenue, and you might see people riding ATVs all over.
I seen people riding quads and dirt bikes in front of City Hall.
Well, maybe City Hall. Well, City Hall is in there. I see the thing about Hartford. I think you could say the whole city it's an urban city. It's close proximity to inner cities.
Hartford, I've talked about this lots of times. I've stood in front of City Hall with press conferences. Lawless. Lawless.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like that.
Right.
That's a leadership issue.
Right. Well, you know, and I know you're not going to go out to West Hartford and ride. And I'm not saying things don't happen in West Hartford, but if you think you're going to go out to Blueback Square and run ATVs loud, you got another. It's not going to happen more than 10 seconds.
Right. And everyone knows that.
Right.
And everybody knows the town where you better act like you have sense when you drive through, and that's Weathersfield. Because they will shoot you.
Yeah. But see, again, that's the problem with places more than I think what you call it. I think those type of activities can turn people off. You know, look, I know people want to run ATVs and have fun, but there's places, and maybe it's just people don't know where to go. They don't feel comfortable. I mean, I don't know
Jonathan,
where you.
People they're lawless and they can get away with it, so they continue to do so. They go down, they do hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage to sporting fields down here in Colt Park and other places, riding and just being reckless. It happens not only here; it does happen out in the suburbs, but here we're better equipped to monitor that kind of behavior and activity. The suburbs a lot of them don't have the kind of law enforcement assets that they can bring to bear to put stop to these kinds of activities. But in Hartford, we absolutely do. And there's a sense of lawlessness that we can get away with stuff and people can't. I tell you one thing. I'm debating whether or not to even say what I'm about to say, but I'll say it. I tell you one thing, it won't happen in the McCauley administration.
Right.
You guarantee you of that.
Right.
No.
And that's another thing. Do you feel comfortable talking about what Judge Coleman presented? I don't really want to put you on the spot. Whether that makes you look bad for you, because like if you say you in favor of what he's talking about, people might say, well, how could Stan McCauley be in favor of another candidate? Or if you're against what he is presenting, then people might say, "Well, he's just."
I prefer not to. I don't shy away from any question or any topic. I'll say it's intriguing. I think it's a little detached from the realities as it was presented in the press conference. But hey, it's something we would love to have a debate about.
Okay, well, that's coming up soon with the debates or the campaign forum.
I doubt that'll be an issue for a great debate.
To do that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we won't have to get into it then if you don't really want to talk about it over the air. I understand it's not.
I don't want to be accused of attacking. Senator or
former Judge Coleman.
Yeah,
right.
People say I'm being mean and snipey. So
I think it's only fair if y'all have a debate that now that's the platform to really say he'll present what he's planned, what he would plan to do.
Right, he's not the only candidate.
Right.
There are other candidates. I don't have a problem debating anybody, anytime, anywhere, any space.
Yes.
Anytime. You jump out of a plane with parachutes and debate. Swim underwater and debate, doesn't matter.
Right.
I'll debate anybody, anytime, anywhere, on any subject.
Yes. Well, I know that you definitely have no problem with that. But again, the thing about a community, Stan, as Dr. Claude Anderson always advocates, a community is where you own, control, and have a direct stake at where you live. It's like the gold standard of what people living and growing and developing should be looking to aim for. But it seems like to me that's not attainable in many levels, because Dr. Claude Anderson would classify a neighborhood, and he has stated this, a neighborhood is just where people live and function. You live, you go shopping, you eat, you socialize, but you don't own and control and have a direct state, where he classifies that as a community. So is it realistic that you can go from can you transform a neighborhood into a community where
It happens all the time. Yeah.
But when? But when has it happened though? You say it happens all
gentrification. You take you to places that was neighborhoods that are now are thriving, solid communities.
Okay, so
It's
they own,
intentional.
control, and have a direct stake though. When you say gentrify in a place, I think what he's talking about is where people run the whole administration. I don't know if he.
There's always going to be individuals that aren't interested in running anything. That's the majority of people. They want to go home after a day's work, watch TV, get a can of their favorite beverage, spend time with their wife and their kids or their significant other, and just live life.
Yeah, but when you say West Hartford, the people there own, control, and have a direct
West
stake in where they
Hartford
live.
is a more affluent town, John. We have had this conversation.
But that's what I'm trying to say.
So if people don't have that kind of disposable income, assets that they can go on vacation, that doesn't mean that they're less
I never said that.
valuable.
Yeah,
All right. They may not be able to own a house, so
Okay.
they rent.
right.
And they're in a neighborhood where there are other renters. That doesn't mean that they can't have a strong community and connection to one another. The only thing that ownership is not the only thing that defines community. I define community. Of course, I'm not a PhD or a doctor or anything like that. I'm just a regular guy. All right. I understand community to be self-sustaining, self-educating, and self-policing. Those are the three tenets of community as I understand community. So if you police your community, if you're responsible for the security and safety of your community, if you're responsible for teaching those that live in your community, and you're also a community that is self-sustaining, you don't need to be sustained by outside resources, then you have a community.
You have a community, okay.
All right. Members of a church or a mosque or a synagogue, they have a community. They may not own anything.
Yeah.
They may share collectively what they have. All right. In a city where 75% of the people rent, I don't know how you're going to go from renter to home ownership.
Right.
People talk that stuff, but it's inconsistent and detached from reality. So what's going to, let's say everybody tomorrow comes into money and they want to own homes. They're not going to build them in Hartford. So what's going to happen? They're going to leave. Now Hartford will have a 75% vacancy rate.
So you don't believe it's even durable when Dr. Claude Anderson is talking about aiming for a black community? Because that's what
I believe it's absolutely attainable. It's sustainable, and it can happen. But it can't just happen anywhere. It has to happen where the conditions are right.
Right.
So what's going to be done to create the conditions to allow what he's talking about to become a reality? He's on a national speaking tour talking about all kinds of stuff. Come here and do it.
Right.
Respectfully, right? Come here and do it. That's a whole nother subject.
Yeah.
He ain't having that conversation.
You mean he come here and he put together the
Bring
whole...
Dr. Claude Anderson here and help him do what he's talking about doing. There are students of Dr. Claude Anderson in Hartford. And it ain't been done yet.
Right.
So I say that respectfully, because there's a plan means nothing. What is the likelihood and the ability of individuals to implement the plan? Plan's a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Where's the plan being where are the failures at the attempt to implement said plan? All right. So talk is cheap.
Right.
Where's the action? Where are the actionable items to make what one's talking about a reality? And now the crickets take over the room.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, again, the substance of matter of putting something together. It's one thing. See, people constantly can tell people, you should do this, you should do that. You know, your community or your environment is capable of doing this. Understandable, it's not easy to make a transition. You know, even when you talk about just even renting, you know, I sent you a clip of my old street, Cleveland Avenue, where a apartment is going for $1,850. You know, it's not for me to say is it worth it or not, because if somebody's going to pay for it, you know, I guess that makes it worth it.
That's the 6-room, 3-family, 1.5 bath. Is that
yeah. Well, it's a 3-bedroom, so I guess that comes to 6-room. Yeah,
3 bedrooms, 6 rooms, 1 full bath, 1 half bath. $1,850. That's reasonable.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, 3 bedrooms. That's for a family.
So it's getting close. Well, like I mentioned, it's getting close to, and I've seen 2 bedrooms for close to $2,000 too. But it's getting closer to now that it used to be a time, and you know, $1,000 was considered. You know, inflation has definitely changed the whole game.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
low inventory. You know, that's just going to change the game. But again, I mean, you know, some people would have issues paying that kind of money. I mean, I've seen apartments listed on some bad streets, $1,600-$1,700.
That's how much stuff costs.
How much costs? So even when you're saying forget about ownership in the rental market, I mean, you better have some cash to keep up with what it costs.
It costs
for
money
food,
to live.
to live, yeah, but
you
more.
know, yeah.
But a lot more over the past 5 years with inflation.
Right, because the money's value has dropped. So you know.
Right. So
You used to be able to buy a car for that kind of money. Brand new.
yeah. But this is more, again, the bigger picture is what exists and what is changing more than what you call something. I mean, you know, again, you be realistic. If I live in a dump, I can kid myself and saying, I mean, put it like this, Stan. Let's say, for instance, you meet someone from, you know, someone from Beverly Hills, California, and you're gonna invite them to visit you for a weekend or a week, and you've been talking to them about the capital city of Hartford. Okay, we're the insurance capital of the world. We have so-called development plans that's being put together. We have Adrian Landings. Now, this person visits you, and not saying that, Stan, you, let's say, misleading the person, but you may not be telling him the whole.
Are they friends, or are they coming here to invest? I mean, why?
Well, I wouldn't say friends, because
I mean,
think
as
friends,
part
you
of
can be
as
real.
part of your hypothetical, what is my relationship to them? I know a person from Beverly Hills, and why are they coming to visit me?
Yeah. Well, let's just say let's just say it's a business deal. You're trying to get them to invest. You're running for mayor of Hartford. You want some investors to come into the city. You want to establish, let's say, a media conglomerate. And you decide to contact some people that you know or that you was able to network through and that happen to be from Beverly Hills, California. Now, do you be upfront with them and real and saying, look, this is the inner city, your business that you're going to bring and put your money together is going to be in the north?
I would be extremely upfront with them.
Okay, so no need of misleading them and tricking them. And
you can't mislead and trick people like that.
Right. Okay.
They have the capacity to go anywhere in the world and establish what it is they're doing. So I'm not going to mislead them. I'll tell them the exact truth and the opportunities that are here. There's abundant opportunity here. Oddly enough, what you're talking about is not that far off.
Oh,
the realm.
Okay.
Right. Are you being totally hypothetical, or are you semi clued into something?
No, I'm being hypothetical. Believe it or not, you know, whatever.
All right. Well, that's not as big a far stretch as one may think. But there are opportunities in Hartford. There are opportunities in the arena in which you are speaking.
Okay.
And one of the things that give it such an opportunity is the fact that the opportunities are in areas that are impacted by poverty.
Right.
So that's a selling point, because there are opportunities to turn those tracts of land around and give opportunities to people who traditionally have not been impacted by, have not had opportunities presented to them that others have.
Well, maybe at some point, I'll bring kind of what this conversation about ghettos and hoods. Maybe I might just get someone and have this as part of a topic to go beyond. I mean, I said, let's talk about it now because I don't have anybody planned anytime in the near future because this exists all over the country. I mean, down south, they call it the trap. We had someone from the metro Atlanta area. You go to Bankhead, some areas. And I'm just wondering, do you do yourself if you're from a place, do you do yourself a disservice when you constantly put these titles of how you classify where you live at? It may not sound cool to say I'm from the neighborhood. When you're talking on the street, maybe that word just don't seem cool enough, or it doesn't flow into the conversation, to say we're in the neighborhood. Maybe saying we're in the hood fits more of a better way of verbally talking when you're speaking.
Well, I try to stay out of other people's heads, so
Yeah.
However folk want to express themselves, I'm cool. I accept what it is they say and keep it stepping. I'm not trying to micromanage other people's speech and their thoughts, and you can't call it this and all that other stuff.
But the other side is people used to always be saying, "Get out of the ghetto." I mean, I used to always hear that from the beginning. Look, we got to get out of the ghetto if we're going to.
So those people are expressing a desire to move and relocate from a circumstance that they've become very familiar with and no longer like.
But it's like when you're saying you got to get out the ghetto, it's like you're saying you got no chance. I mean, I used to always hear that. I hear people say,
that's how you interpret what they're saying. Okay. And indeed, they may be saying that. But because they say that doesn't make it so. So you have to ask yourself, what are my chances of substantive change for the quote unquote, whatever that quote unquote better is, if I stay here?
Right.
If there's no opportunity, then you leave.
Yeah. Right.
But you may have opportunity. You may feel very comfortable. Some people like their community and their neighborhood.
Right.
There's camaraderie. There's friendships. There's bonded relationships that you've had for years that people they would just as soon leave. They would never want to leave them.
Yeah. But I'm just saying when people say, well, this kid, he's from the ghetto, so, what do you expect? I mean, I've heard
that's
that many
very
times.
Negative and condescending. And the people who are generally saying that are not speaking in a nice light.
Right.
So my thing is, well, who the heck are they?
But maybe if that kid is growing up and he buys into the fact that I'm from the ghetto and I'm not gonna really get nowhere because I'm in the hood and I'm from the ghetto. If I want to be a rapper, yeah, maybe, but if I want to be a successful business, I think breaking the barriers.
That I think I understand the gist of what it is you're saying. Now, if you have teachers in a school who have a mindset, well, those kids is just from the ghetto. What do you expect from them? Then they shouldn't be in the employ of the school system,
right?
Because their mindset is toxic to the further upward the upward mobility of the students are being hindered by teachers who don't see them as having the capacity to move up. Their expectations are lowered because those students are from the quote unquote ghetto.
Ghetto, yeah.
And that's how they see them. So how do you see the students in Hartford when you see them? How do you see the students in West Hartford?
Yeah.
When you see them?
Right.
How do you see the students at Loomis Chaffee? Or Kingswood Oxford when you see them?
Right.
All right. So if you see these kids as hopeless and without promise, then you shouldn't be teaching here.
But truthfully, Stan, and I mean, like I say, I'm from this area, so I guess I can say it. and it may not come across being, well, you can't say I didn't live in it because I basically live here and I'm from the area. But if I go up to Unity Plaza and I see groups of men shooting dice in front of Burger and Pizza Land, I can't get the same high expectations in that area day after day looking at that type of image.
As a kid, you're saying?
Well, even as an adult, if
Well,
I'm
then
saying,
move
yeah,
then.
well, I'm saying if I'm going to project investment like Howard Hill, I'm not talking about just growing up. I'm just saying as a business person, where is going to be the return on your investment?
I can't speak to that. I'm not the one making those kinds of investments.
Right.
That's something that only
yeah, Howard Hill
he can do. And his desire to change the community, while admirable, may not be what the community wants.
But the bigger picture, though, and I'm still not getting the full. I'm hearing what you're saying, Stan, but still something I'm not hearing. There has to be something wrong with that picture day after day. You say it's just people socializing, so okay, they're not bothering anybody. If you want to shoot dice, you want to gamble, you want to not look for a job.
If there's 57 people who want to go shoot dice, get a little drink on, where should they go?
No, well, they go where they feel most comfortable and where you can,
Yes,
lauder
according to you, that's in front of Burger Pizza Land.
Well, I know what I see, and it's not just burger. Just one example.
Right,
I mean, French Liquors, a package store in Albany. There's elements like this that exist.
Exactly, and that's my point. They're going to be somewhere.
Right.
So if they're not here, they're over there.
Right.
They're quite comfortable. So who is the broader society to say that you are participating in an activity that we deem to be unrespectful? You need to move.
Well, not that, but you have some strong. See, you as a person has some, and you mentioned this with your own son. You have some issues with unemployment. Now, you don't?
No.
No, well, Stan,
I have issues if you're going to be an adult living in this house.
Right.
You're going to work.
Right. But if a group of men throughout our city to say that they don't want to work, you don't. That's on
Jonathan, I don't superimpose my worldview on nobody.
Yeah.
Who am I to say to them, you must go and do X, Y, and Z? I don't have to support them.
Right. Well, maybe
so what they do with it, as long as they're not breaking the law.
Well, law is being broke, but let's just say now.
So if I live in Kennebunkport, Maine, and I never worked a day in my life,
right.
I'm unemployed. I have a trust fund, but I'm unemployed.
Yeah.
I hang out at the golf club.
Right.
And I don't drink out of a liquor bottle. I drink out of a nice long stem glass.
Right.
And I need help getting home at night.
Right.
And hopefully I don't have some strange female in my car as I drive over the bridge.
Yes.
And lose control of the car.
Yeah, I think I remember.
So is he somehow a better grade of human being than the person who's drinking in front of French's? Well, it's just a matter of where they are. I'm not the one that makes the social determiner as to who's more socially acceptable than the next person.
Well, maybe I need to separate this from just Stan McCauley or anybody else towards maybe a person who wants to become mayor. Maybe that's a lot different now. Underemployment exists.
Right.
It has some problems that goes along with it that could lead to other problems.
I think that the problems are more related to the fact that we have a city that is gripped by poverty. Poverty has outward manifestations, of which unemployment is one of them. So if you're going to attack that, you have to bring opportunity for people to be employed in. The fact that they're unemployed is an obvious. So what are you doing to help alleviate that? Right. You can't just say, well, you can't be unemployed. So where are the opportunities to change that circumstance? That is outside of their control.
Right.
So what can we do as a society? What can we do as a municipality in our limited role in government? How can we change the paradigm to bring businesses here where people will be able to find work. And how do we do it in such a way that we are targeting the people that live in our communities, knowing that we can't keep people from East Hartford or West Hartford or Granby from applying for those jobs?
Right, right.
So it's not as simple as saying, well, they need to be employed. Yeah. The ones that want to be employed and have the capacity to be employed, how do we put them in places if they want? So there are different ways and avenues that you can do.
But again, it sounds like to me, if you're going to label everything towards poverty, this is a vicious cycle and trap.
It's a vicious cycle and trap as long as poverty is a multi-billion-dollar industry and there's more people making money off of the poverty than there are. There's a reason why there's poverty.
Right.
All right.
Now, people can say, okay, there's educational problems. You can say that there is some type of criminal record that can, kind of keep you from certain companies. There's other factors that play.
Those are excuses. There are plenty of companies around the United States who are hiring ex-felons and are doing very well.
Right.
Because they can't find workers. So now they're going and they're, oh my goodness, here's a great worker who comes to work every day, can learn this, that, and the third. Yeah, but they're human beings. So we have a whole lot of artificial hurdles on the track of life that people like to throw up to make it difficult for some people to overcome those hurdles, while others run in a lane that there are no hurdles at all.
Right.
And you have a special gold star that allows you to run in those straight lanes. All right. Well, you tripped going over the first hurdle, so we're not going to punish you and add 3 more hurdles onto the course. And as long as since you tripped back there, we're not going to give you any more chances. So this, these are decisions made by people in the society how they want to treat one another.
Well, again, poverty, and I would assume talking to you and other people, your consciousness and your mindset would be. I know you got a platform, Stan, and you're working towards other areas. But if you can get to the root of poverty and get the consciousness and the mindset in order, that would go a long way towards, fixing and preventing many other problems down the road. It's just not too many places where you don't have poverty and people got a good mental frame of mind, just don't wreck. Things can happen anywhere, but usually people don't wreck their self and their environment when you don't have those barriers hanging over your head. Again, I mean, things can happen out of the ordinary, and you don't like to utilize West Hartford because you say that's a whole different level of a community, but it's just 9 times out of 10 when I go to the grocery store and I see people having hundreds of dollars that they can buy on food, and I know I can't drop $500 just like that every time. And
they make more money.
They make more money, so
they can afford to buy. $50 worth of salmon for the night.
Right.
These are the reasons why they went and got the education or struggled to get to the top. So that they can have those opportunities.
Right.
A lot of backstabbing, undermining to get there. At least you can get you a good meal.
A meal, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Life isn't always greener on the other side. Just,
right.
So.
But I know what I see when I go to Whole Foods. I don't see nobody pinching pennies when I walk into that store. I'm monitoring what it's going to cost. And they don't seem to have that on the back of their mind.
Well, Jonathan, everyone that shops at Whole Foods is not independently wealthy. Some people shop at Whole Foods because they understand that good food is good medicine.
Well, that's me.
You shop at Whole Foods.
Right. I like the quality of food.
Right. So somehow other people can't like the quality of food. That doesn't mean you have to spend every dime you earn on food.
Right. But disposable income, like you say, I mean, that goes a long way. If you're going to be talking about bringing in restaurants and bringing in other forms of entertainment, people usually have to have disposable income. If you're going to go out and spend $50 at the Hartford Stage Company. People say, how come people and I know you say it may not cater to what they like, but what's stopping someone from the inner city to go to the Hartford Stage Company?
Nothing. Nothing's stopping them.
But they're not going.
Nothing. So what is stopping people? What stops people from West Hartford from going to, Uptown Vibes?
Right.
On community night.
Yeah.
They are welcome to come.
Right.
But that's not their scene.
That's not their scene, yeah. Right.
So some people's scene is not the Hartford Stage.
Yeah. But sometimes, people say, well, Hartford doesn't have this. And you mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, that Hartford does have these type of things. You do have the Hartford Stage. You do have the Bushnell. You do have things that
Bushnell,
exist.
Hartford Stage.
Uh-huh.
You got Theater Works.
Right.
You've got the little mini theater up on Farmington Avenue, across from Mark Twain.
Mm-hmm.
Although they're going to be moving, there are stage plays that are held in churches and community theaters. If you like theater, there's clubs where you can go hear great jazz, Black Eyed Sally's, Uptown Vibes. There's 880s is gone, but you got the Flying Monkey. Of course, they're not in Hartford anymore. They used to be down by the airport, but now they're down in just below. I know where they are, Silas Dean, but I can't think of the town they're in for some reason. But Hartford has lots of great things going on.
Right.
You just don't know about them.
Mm-hmm.
There's jazz at the Butler McCook House. There's jazz in the park. There's Monday night jazz. The Greater Hartford Festival Jazz is coming. There's concerts up in on the greens, Sigourney Square. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Stuff in Keeney Park.
Right.
Hartford's a small town with a lot of different communities, and if you don't have reach into those communities, you may not be aware of all the things because Hartford doesn't communicate well.
Right, the marketing. But the one thing, Keeney Park was labeled the best. Keeney Park, but Hartford Windsor, actually, I think part of Keeney Park is in Windsor too, labeled the best park in the state of Connecticut. I think it ranked
not
#1.
Surprised at all. Keeney Park is a great park.
Well, now there's I don't know if they was talking mostly about the golf course area, because there's a difference when you look at the golf course and you look at the old basketball courts behind where I grew up, Keeney Barber. So I could buy in.
Keeney Park is big. There's
big.
more to Keeney Park than the barber section.
The barbers, yeah. And people don't even classify that really as Keeney Park, but that was
like Camden.
Well, we called it Keeney Barber when I was playing basketball as a kid. That part was called Keeney Barber. But the golf course is tremendous.
It is.
And it's not free, though. You have to pay to go to that golf course. But
got to be maintained somehow. Well, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Well,
again, man, I mean, I hope you don't have a problem with, things I say sometime about
I don't
ghettos,
have a problem with anything that anybody says, Jonathan.
Right.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
Right.
And I'll be good.
You doing the show Wednesday with Luis?
No, we won't be live Wednesday because tomorrow night is a Board of Education meeting.
Oh, okay.
Live from Weaver High School.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to put the studio back together after we take the whole studio part here and we move it over there and we put it up and we do the shoot, then we take it all back down, we come home and then we put it back up.
Right.
And so that takes time.
Yeah, okay.
And so we don't do a live show after a live remote shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be a repeat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I was able to get this show done in order. I don't have a guest for next Monday and working on that. But again, this big 1983 show, first, we're doing the show July the 3rd, right? Because I had already booked the guest. Independence Day is the Tuesday, the 4th.
The 4th of July.
So I want to make sure now. I already got the 3rd booked.
I think we're
okay.
I think we're good to go.
The 3rd is Monday. Yeah.
Check the schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll look forward to that. But again, let me work on next Monday. And
now next Monday is what is next Monday? Next Monday is
next Monday is the 19th.
The 19th. That's Juneteenth.
Juneteenth. Oh, it is. It is.
Next Monday is Juneteenth. Okay. I do have a speaking commitment on that day, but I don't think it conflicts with
the 8 o'clock. Okay.
I don't think it conflicts with the program.
Okay. Well, like I say, that's something that you're gonna look forward to. And again, so yeah, Stan. I mean, I had an interesting conversation with this person. I'm glad I had the chance to elaborate, about what he was telling me about neighborhoods and that words. And like I say, I don't know how you want to classify it as a subculture. I mean, I see people using the N-word like it's just a normal way of talking today. But that's just not my style, So everybody,
well,
not for me to tell
people. People talk how they talk.
Yeah.
All right, John. We're not gonna go back around on this one again.
No.
We could be here all night. Into the night.
To the night. Yes. Okay.
All right, my friends. Our time together, of course, as always, comes to an end. But go out and do something nice for friends and neighbors. All right. So, yeah, today is a big day, though. It's the presentations before the Democratic Town Committee happened today.
Oh, okay.
So all of the mayoral candidates are trying to win support from the town committee for the endorsement. Those interviews happen tonight.
That comes first, and then in September.
Well, the town committees will eventually choose somebody. No one knows who that will be. But whoever gets it, there will be challenges to that. So the challengers are going to have to go out and get signatures to get their name on the primary ballot. And that election is September the 12th.
Yeah, but you're saying this Democratic
town committee
interviews coming
today.
Today, okay.
Right. Tomorrow they'll be for treasurer. And city council, I think, is tomorrow. Today is mayor.
Today is the mayoral.
Mayor interview.
Mayor interview. So right. That'll be formulated by tomorrow? We'll know?
No,
No. Okay.
No. The town committee will make their determination at the convention.
The convention.
But you want to hear from the people who are vying for the job. So those interviews are today and tomorrow.
Okay.
And the convention is in July.
Right. So the convention July, then the announcement or the mayoral candidate announcement is in September?
No. All of the candidates are going to be interviewed by the town committee. There's like 79, 80 members of the town committee. I think there's an open seat, 79, somewhere around there, I think. And they will cast their votes for the people they think best suited for mayor, city council, and treasurer. That'll happen at the convention.
Right.
The convention is near the end of July.
July, okay.
The day after the convention, or the night after the convention, once the convention's over, everyone will know who will be the town committee's recommended candidate for the office of mayor and 6 city council people and a treasurer.
Right.
The people who are unhappy with that, if there are candidates, will say, hey, I think I do a better job than them. I'm going to go out and sell myself to the party. And they'll go out, they'll knock on doors, they'll get signatures. And once they get enough signatures to get on the ballot, there will be an election. And in that election, the members of the party will vote. That happens in September.
Yeah, that's that. Like the primary.
That'll be the primary, right? And then whoever wins the primary becomes the party's nominee.
Right.
For the general election.
In November.
Where we will go on to crush the Republican.
Right.
I
don't want to make you late for this segment. I know you got a certain time, so I appreciate this information, but I want to make sure
we're good.
We're good. Okay, so those are some big areas that's moving very closely together.
I just mentioning that. That's
July, September, November.
All right, we're out of time. Okay. So special thanks to our guests, great guests, good information. particularly if you're looking to start yourself a YouTube channel. She was good. She was good.
Bring a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Gave her A+ rating.
A+ from Jonathan Small. The second A+ in the history of the program.
Yep, Mayor Shirley Franklin. I gave her the second time, but she was very good the first time too. But the second time, I had to give her A+.
A+.
She topped the first time.
All right. We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.